Hey, hey, hey. What's up, y'all? The Graduated and Grown podcast is back again with another freaking weekly episode. Round of applause, please, because consistency is probably one of the biggest things that I struggle with. Like, that's what I struggle with. There's no need for me to elaborate. We should probably do an episode about like my consistency issues, but we're not going to bring that energy into today's podcast. I hope y'all had a good week and that it wasn't too busy between school, work, your personal life, family, I don't know, whatever else you have going on. For me, my week was okay. I think things could have been way better, but at the same time, they also could have been like way worse. So I guess at the end of the day, at the end of every day, I'm just thankful to be alive and healthy in all honesty. I feel like I have a lot of different things going on right now, and a lot of different things that I'm thinking about, and I'm kind of low key overwhelmed. Like, not overwhelmed to the point where I just want to lay in my bed in the dark, but overwhelmed to the point where my mind is racing. I was trying to take a nap earlier today, and my mind literally would not be quiet. I literally had to like take deep breaths and say, Ariane, calm down. We're gonna get through it. This is what you need to do. It was actually very, very interesting. That does not happen very often. So this episode is not about that. I'll be okay. Enough about my personal life. Maybe we can do that with the next solo episode. Like, I can just give you guys a life a life breakdown and low-key a ranting episode. I personally really love ranting episodes, so maybe I would like that too. Anyway, today I have a very, very, very special guest, and we're talking about a pretty fun and interesting topic: relationships, specifically long-term relationships. Now, Bria and I have been dating our boyfriends for almost 4 years now, which is absolutely freaking crazy. And it's actually kind of funny, like Bria and I, me and Bria's relationship to each other. It's kind of funny because so we were friends all throughout college, and we became housemates slash roommates. But we shared a house, not a room, during our senior year. But our boyfriends have been friends literally since elementary school. They grew up in the same city, kind of lost touch over the years, and then like got back to their friendship when we got to college. So in this episode, I'm going to talk to Bria about the beautiful sides of being in a relationship, such as, the time you spent together, the memories, the laughs. And then we'll touch on the not so pretty things like working through disagreements, balancing a relationship, plus your academic career, and even like the pressures from like family members and friends to like move your relationship faster or even slower than you would like to. And personally, I really enjoyed talking with Bria and understanding a little more about her relationship. So I think you guys will really enjoy listening to this episode. Just a little more information about Bria. She is a recent graduate of Oakwood University, like me, where she majored in biology. And Bria is really, really kind and personable, and someone that I'm so thankful to have in my corner. She grew up in the beautiful and oh so sunny state of, you already know, California, but she's currently living in Alabama. Like I mentioned earlier, Bria graduated with her Bachelor's of Science in Biology, so she's currently in a gap year and in the process of applying and interviewing for medical school. So it's Dr. Bria to you. During her gap year, Bria has spent countless hours teaching students ranging from kindergarten to high school students about a variety of topics that aren't normally taught in school, such as entrepreneurship. And I wish I would have learned more about entrepreneurship or even things like personal finance when I was in high school, because I think that would have really helped me now. Like, me and Google wouldn't have to rely on each other so much. Anyway, me and Bria have been friends since freshman year, but our friendship has grown over the years, and she's such a joy to be around. So in this episode, I think you'll get a really nice sneak peek into both her personality and her relationship. So sit back, relax, and enjoy. I don't know about you, but I think adulting is hard. Figuring out your love life, finances, friendships, professional life, health, and how to make a freaking doctor's appointment on your own can be so overwhelming sometimes. So, welcome to Graduated and Grown, a podcast that's focused on helping you and me overcome the struggles of adulting. Let's have some fun yet honest conversations about life once you're graduated and grown.
Bria
Awesome.
Gamble, thank you so much for being on the Graduated and Grown podcast. I'm super excited. When I was sitting down thinking, okay, who can I have talk about relationships? Instantly, I was like, Bria. Bria's been in a committed relationship since 2017.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh my God. Yes. And a relationship that I've enjoyed watching grow and everything. So before we really get to know about you and your relationship, I want to know, tell us, who is Bria Gamble?
Okay. Um, I think the best or the top things that I feel like describe me are I'm a very people-oriented type of person, especially family. I love working with kids. I have a lot of cousins, so like I said, family-oriented. I want to be a physician one day. Currently in a gap year, one day gonna, get into medical school. And some quick facts, I love podcasts. I love to eat just, all types of food. And I am originally from Southern California. So those are
Mm,
quick things about me.
awesome. Awesome. Okay. So I have a couple icebreaker questions I want to ask you. And the first one is not related to relationships. So, what's something that's on your bucket list that you want to accomplish before you die one day?
I think I want to get professional cooking lessons, you
Mm-hmm.
know, yeah, like go to a fancy place and get, like professional cooking lessons. Um, that I would say that's something probably, I don't know, it's random and it probably is definitely going to happen, but I think it would be
Right.
awesome.
So, like,
Yeah.
what dish would you like just love to learn how to make?
I love anything with pesto in it, so it really doesn't matter, but as long as it has pesto in it, I would be satisfied. But like fresh pesto from scratch
Hmm.
and then put it on a panini, put it with a pasta, I don't care. But yeah, I think that'd be so good.
I
So,
think pesto. I don't even remember when I found pesto, but that literally changed my life. I wanted
oh
pesto in
yeah.
everything.
Oh
It's so
yeah.
good. Ah,
Yeah, no, it's real. And I'm thankful I'm not allergic to anything because I eat it so much. So yeah, that
I
would be
feel
my
you
thing.
100%. All
Yeah.
right, next question. What are three words you would use to describe your relationship with your boyfriend?
Think it's evolving,
Hmm.
fun, and I think it's unique. Yeah.
Mm. So evolving, funny, unique. Okay, okay. I'll try to remember
Mhm.
those. And then my
Yeah.
next question is kind of a fun question. What's
Mhm.
the most embarrassing thing you or your boyfriend has ever done on a date?
I I don't know if we've really done anything embarrassing. I definitely think there's been like times where I've been like super nervous and I've done something underneath, like where he can't tell, like I'm trying to like, like maybe like I slip or like there's like a
Uh-huh.
something wrong with my outfit or something like that. But yeah, I don't know if there's been anything embarrassing that we've done on a date. I can tell you it was like a fake date, but
Hmm.
I say fake because we weren't on a date. It was just more we went as friends before we were dating and with other people who
Hmm.
were on dates. I don't know how to explain that, but we were clearly there as friends. And when we were sitting there at the movies, which is where we went, but not everybody sat together at the movies. So we were in our own seats and these people that we knew from school right behind us and they were like pull the thing from in between you guys, you
The
shouldn't be sitting
divider.
back. Yeah, the divider, they're like pull it up between you, like you shouldn't be sitting like that, like y'all need to get closer, there's too much space. And we were just
Mm.
both like, this is really uncomfortable. But we just laughed about it, like it didn't become uncomfortable, where we just like stopped communicating. It was like, whoa, what
Hmm.
does this mean? It was just more of like, we were just laughing it off to this day because that person, maybe they could see, because that was months before we actually started dating, they could maybe see that, yeah, one day you guys could be together, but definitely
They
not then
predicted
were we
it.
gonna be. Exactly. So yeah, I think that was just embarrassing because we were just like, okay, well, this is not supposed to be a date, and now this person is making it seem like a date. So
It would have been really awkward if like you or Xavier were talking to like somebody else in that friend group and they're like, that's weird. But
yeah,
hey, it worked
yeah,
out good. That person
exactly.
needs to do like a special like cheers at your wedding one day.
Yeah, definitely. They'll definitely be there. So yeah, that'd probably
All
be
right. Well,
very
beautiful
fun.
answers to my questions. Now we're going to move on
Okay.
to something I thought of literally right before you came on the call. So this is called
Okay.
relationships debunked. So I want you to tell me if this statement is true or false.
Okay.
Here's the first one. You have to love yourself before you can love another person. True or false?
True.
Why do you say true?
Um, I think that because a part of loving somebody else is knowing how to communicate how you need to be loved. If you don't know, if you don't love yourself, you may not know how you need to be loved. But I don't think you have to be like have all the answers. I think you can still be figuring it out if you're in a relationship, but there has to be some level of understanding of yourself. Some introspection has gone on about, self-love. So that's why I
I
say,
agree.
yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay, next one. This is an interesting one.
Okay.
Arguing is healthy. True or false?
I say false.
Why do you say false?
I think having dialogues or discussions is healthy,
Hmm.
but not arguing. Or at least I've yet to see it be healthy for me.
Hmm.
So yeah, that's why I say false.
I agree. I think having conversations when you disagree on something is really important, or else like you'll be keeping something to yourself, he'll be keeping something to himself. So having those
Mm-hmm.
discussions, sharing your point of views, and coming to meeting in the middle, or not meeting in the middle, and just respecting each other's decisions is important. But arguing, I feel like arguing is normally linked to like fighting, yelling, and I don't think that's necessarily healthy.
Yeah, or maybe, and also a lot of heightened emotions. Even if you're not a person who yells, you may say things you weren't planning on saying, or you may
Yeah.
push somebody else's buttons, or um, act on ways that they're vulnerable, which is like taking advantage of the things they've trusted you with in the heat of the moment.
Hmm.
So that is not, proper. Even if you come back and say, "Oh, I'm so sorry," and they say, "I'm so sorry," yeah, it's not. Yeah, that's why I say
That's
false.
That's hard to move past. Okay. Next
Hmm.
one. Once a cheater, always a cheater. Now, this is something I'm sure we've literally heard since we were kids. Do you
Yeah,
think that's true or false?
I think it's true. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Okay. Why?
because, well, something inside of you had to have led you to do that.
Hmm.
So I probably would have phrased it a little bit differently. I probably would have phrased it more, if somebody shows you who they are, believe them
Hmm.
type of
I like
way.
that.
Because I think it can span to a lot of different actions. But cheating is something that is very deliberate and it's very serious and it has consequences on a lot of different people involved. So it's not like, oh, I just happened to kind of fall into this. Like you are
Yeah.
making, that decision. So I think that because of that, it would be very hard for somebody to not do other things to hurt that person. So yeah, maybe once a person to play with your heart, maybe that's a better way to say it. And
Hmm.
cheating is one of those ways, or abuse, other ways. I don't think that you should always give somebody a second chance unless you are like, you know what, I can deal with the fact that you're a cheater, but they still may, they've broken that trust. And so
I agree with you. All right. And last one. Relationships are easy. True or false?
I say false.
Okay. I agree with you. False immediately.
Yeah. definitely, but
All
it's
right.
it's worth it. So
So I think we'll kind of like get into like why relationships aren't easy a little bit
okay.
later, but let's start
Okay.
talking about long-term relationships. So
Hmm.
I already mentioned this in the intro, but you and Xavier have been together for almost 4 years now. And I feel like society always like ships these long-term relationships, but like no one ever takes the time to really understand what they are and how they work unless they're married. Like you see all these different interviews with like couples that are married for 5 years, 10 years, but you don't really see like people that have been dating for that long. So I'm really, really excited to talk to you about your relationship with Xavier. So before we get into Xavier being in the picture, tell me about your dating experience prior to college.
I think this would be a pretty short answer. There was like none.
Hmm.
I would say to sum it all up, yeah, I haven't dated anybody before, but um there have been people that like I went to school dances with. That's about the extent. But
Hmm.
also on that, I don't count it because they were all either sadies or like somebody I
Ah,
knew from church. So it wasn't actually going on a date and they all were really bad. So I try to remove those from my memory, just traumatic. So yeah.
If you're listening now, she didn't really mean that. You guys were
Oh
great.
no, I meant it. I meant it 100%. I meant it all. They were all
Oh,
bad. I could go into those another day, but they were all bad. And they all
so
deserve the slander.
okay, we'll have to talk about that after the episode.
Yeah.
So, what was your parents like? Did your parents say, "Oh no, Bria, you can't date until you're 25," or were they open like, "Bria, date around"? Like, what was their mindset when you were in college or when you were in high school?
Oh yeah. Okay. I think that is one of the big reasons why I didn't date in college. In addition to being from California, and California guys don't really like Black women.
Oh, yeah.
Like, and that's, I can unpack that, but it's just more of culturally, this has kind of been how society has gone. And but with my parents, back to my parents, they didn't kind of necessarily say, oh yeah, don't do this until this age, don't. It was just more of, I kind of almost felt like scared to
Mm-hmm.
date anybody, because I felt like they didn't want me to, or that I was, breaking some type of rules, or that they were going to have all these questions that I didn't have the answers to, and like be all on my case, and
Mm-hmm.
just kind of interrogate me all the time. I was kind of just like, I don't want that. So I'm not going to even try to deal with that. I'm just going to be about my stuff, have fun with friends, and call it a day. But there was also people from church too. Like when I was leaving for college, I will never forget. There was one guy who was like, if I need to come up there with my gun to Oakwood, let me know. You better not come back with no
Oh.
boyfriend, blah, blah, blah. When I was leaving. And I felt it very heavily in that kind of transition time, senior year of high
Mm-hmm.
school. People started being more confident in saying what they had to say about, you are there for school. That was a lot of what it was. It's like, be focused. You are there for school. You don't have time for all this other stuff. And that again kind of scared me. I think I'm very much a rule follower. So
Mm-hmm.
hearing all that, I was like, yeah, I just want to get into med school. Of course, if this is going to distract me. Yeah,
Blinders
like
on.
exactly. Like, I don't want to get pregnant. I don't want to have distractions. And so I said, okay, well, I guess that's not for me. And my thing was, they said, don't date until junior year, because in by junior year, you'll have it all together. So then you'll have time. And we both know that that's
Didn't
not the case.
happen.
Yeah, but here we are. So yeah, that was a lot of
That's
what I've heard.
that's really interesting because I kind of feel like we're kind of similar, but kind of for different reasons with that. So like I never had a boyfriend in middle school or high school. So my boyfriend now is my first boyfriend ever. And I think my mom never said, "Oh no, you can't date," but it was more of a yes, they focused on school. But I feel like if I
Mm-hmm.
was like, "Oh, I want to go on a date with this person," and she knew who it was, she wouldn't care. And I guess I did go on a date, but looking back, when I was so it was right before I went to college, like literally a year, or it was like no, it was like a month before I left for Oakwood. I
Oh
went on this
wow.
date with this guy who was a waste of time. And I was so
Uh-huh.
excited, and I'm surprised my mom even let me go. Looking back, she shouldn't have let me go. And
Mm-hmm.
then I think I went on a date with this other guy, but it was kind of like a group thing. So it was like a group date type thing. But anyway, when I went to college, like my family and church was like, you're there for an education, stay focused, like you can get a boyfriend later, like junior, senior year, yada, yada, yada. And just like you, that didn't happen at all.
Mm-hmm.
But okay, so neither of us had dating experience prior to college, but I'm sure we both had like expectations about like what our dating life will look like in college. So prior to coming to Oakwood, did you think that, oh my God, I'm going to find the love of my life, or just somebody that, I could spend time with? Like, what were your expectations going into college in 2016?
I was a lot more optimistic about the possibilities of finding a boyfriend or somebody in
Mm-hmm.
college versus, in California, just not being in California. I think that was the thing, but I also still had the blinders on, where I was like, they're going to come, but they're not coming to me until junior year. So,
Mm-hmm.
let's just hope that they're still around. That's kind of how I felt. Is also, a lot of people were saying that's because guys will be immature. So my thing was, well, they're all too immature right now anyway, so you know what, I'm fine, like it's gonna happen. But I didn't come in like that first semester being like, I'm going to find the person this semester. We may be friends for now, but I didn't even really see it like that. I mean, now looking back, I was doing a bit much by, being too kind of, I guess, scared into like just saying no to any prospects at all. But yeah, I guess that's the best way I would answer that.
Okay, so obviously your expectations were changed when you met your boyfriend. So tell me of how you and Xavier met.
Yeah, okay, so I was involved in a lot of different things at Oakwood, but one of the main things I did at the beginning of college was I was in the orchestra.
Mm-hmm.
And we were also in the orchestra, yeah, together,
Yes.
just different areas. But the thing was that Xavier actually, we sat near each other ish. And then he was also in the jazz band, which I did very briefly because I played the
Really?
trumpet as well. Yeah. Yeah, I played the trumpet. I played the trumpet and the clarinet from like middle school, well, elementary to, when I got to college.
Uh-huh.
So yeah, we were in both of those together. And then I think I randomly met him, but really we didn't like introduce ourselves to each other at some random breakfast or something in the caf, somebody he knew and I knew were sitting next to each other. So I happened to sit at the table type of thing. But where we really kind of grew that friendship, where he got my phone number, was through music, because
Mm-hmm.
I think I needed a professor's number and he was like, well, I'll text it to you type of thing.
Mm.
And then we kind of just became friends from that because we were different majors. So we were always hanging out, at least in, rehearsals, at performances when we used to still perform,
Yeah.
those types of things. So that was, and then we met too over Facebook before I had his number, because I was like, oh, he's from California, and freshman me was very friendly. And if anybody was from California, or honestly Detroit too, because my family's from there, I'd be like, oh, let's hang out, type of thing. So yeah, that in summary is kind of, music was that connection between us.
So you guys started off literally as just friends, but obviously there had to be some type of like light switch. So how did you go from being just friends? This sounds so dramatic, but from friends to lovers. How did that work?
I think that it was very slow, mostly on my end,
Mm-hmm.
because I was, just so, no, I don't want a boyfriend. I can't. I'm going to lose focus type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
But because it was so slow, it was time of really getting to know the other person. And then you realized, after just so much time of getting to know them, of like, oh, wow, we really get each other. We really connect in all these different things. But we didn't have that conversation until probably about 9 months after we met.
Mm-hmm.
So we were friends a long time, you know. And by that I mean like consistently hanging out a lot, doing all these different things, never ever bringing up, you know, are we trying to be in a relationship? Oh, I want to take you out. Like none of that type of
Mm-hmm.
stuff. Like I think that it was, I guess we kind of just saw that we were always naturally gravitating toward each other, for more than just, oh, we would eat breakfast every day together. Because we did
Mm-hmm.
that. I know first semester, freshman year, we would hang out every once in a while, but second semester, for sure, we'd eat breakfast every single day at like 7:30 on the dot every day. I honestly don't think we missed one, maybe, and then it became something else would be added on, and then something else would be added on. So it was kind of just very organic, and then towards the end of the year, probably, well, I would say end, because it was more March and we really finished school in April, kind of, that we ended up having a conversation about it all, because I think he had brought up like, oh yeah, I think it'd be cool if we date, and he had like texted this to me, and I was like, what the heck are you
Right.
talking about? Like, pause, this is a conversation for in person, because I'm very much we don't have serious conversations like that over text unless we
Mm-hmm.
absolutely have to. But yeah, we should talk about we should talk about that, And then we ended up having a conversation about it, and I was like, no, I don't want that.
Mm-hmm.
My plan. this is not a part of it. You know, I think I need more time. I think that it would be best to wait.
Mhm.
Um, and that did not really go over well. But that was kind of later on, though. It was so much of me getting to know him as a person without all of those expectations that helped me, that when we had that final conversation, feel confident that, like, oh yeah, okay, hold up, this isn't actually as crazy of an idea as I'm thinking in my mind. You know, like,
Mhm.
I think one person really put it a great way. They were like, if somebody is providing so much to your life rather than taking away, like, why wouldn't you want to see that relationship blossom into something further? Because that was always my
Right.
fear all along, is being in a relationship is going to distract me. It's going to take me away from stuff. Like, that was my
Mhm.
best semester. And I don't even count junior and senior because I had some different things going on in my life that made it a little easier.
Mhm.
But in terms of like having heavy, just busy, we did really well for both of us. And I don't think that it was by accident. It was because of the consistency that we had with each other and supporting one another. So that
Mhm.
was kind of like that light bulb moment I had, where it was like, hold up. If he's been here all along, like, what makes you think that you adding a title to it now is going to make it worse? If anything, it would just make it
Right.
better, you know? So yeah, we've just always been best friends. And I think that that's why I said fun, is because like we always have a lot of fun because we are best friends first. So
I
yeah.
love that. And I'm not gonna give my relationship story on here. I'll do that on another episode. But I think,
Okay.
like, we're both so similar kind of in how our relationship started. And I think that's something that should be like emphasized for listeners. Like, you don't have to get in like, okay, sometimes being friends with the person, with your boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever first, can kind of give you some of the best relationships, because like you said, there's no pressure. You're literally just getting
Mhm.
to know each other. You're confiding in this person because you trust them, not because you feel kind of obligated because you've been dating this person or you know that they like you. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I would definitely encourage, like, anyone listening right now, definitely like take the pressure off of yourself and just get to know people as friends, because either A, maybe you'll make a really good friend out of that, or maybe that person could turn into your boyfriend, girlfriend, life partner.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. And you see that person at their best and their worst sometimes
Hmm.
when they're not too quick to either, make a move, or you're both not having, you're not in your head too much, because I think too that if he hadn't been patient, because a lot of times guys may want to, they're usually the ones who will say something. So maybe
Yeah.
he, in some moments, wanted to say something sooner, which I know now he did, but I think it was good that he didn't, because then it made us both be able to just be completely ourselves. And because we
Hmm.
were so young, maybe now because we're a lot more mature, we would have been able to kind of find that balance, but not back then. So yeah, it's definitely good advice.
And imagine how you would have reacted if it was like January 2017. He was like, "Oh, I like you." And you're like, "Whoa, wait, hold on. We were just friends." Like, that might turn you off against the person.
Oh, 100%. Because it already happened like multiple times. Like freshman year, it was bad. So, and the thing was, who was I telling all this to? Was him. Like, I was telling
Uh-huh.
him all of the horrible stories of craziness people were doing. So he was internalizing all this and was like, oh, okay, let me
I
not
know
do
not
that,
to do that.
Yeah,
Hmm.
I was almost like giving him pointers, which I didn't know I was doing. But yeah,
Hmm.
I agree. I definitely agree.
And I think it can be so frustrating sometimes, like when you're building this friendship, you think it's a friendship with a guy, and then all of a sudden he's like, "I'm deeply in love with you." And you're like, "Okay, hold on." Like, we were like
Yeah.
really good friends. And especially if you don't feel the same way, that's when it's kind of a problem, where you kind of have to say,
hmm
"Oh, Jack, I'm not really interested in you, but let's keep being friends."
hmm
Unfortunately, most guys, I don't know about girls, and most guys are gonna be like, "Nah," and they'll just forfeit the friendship. So, but
hmm
that's a whole other topic.
For sure. We both have experienced that. It's a mess, but here we are today, much better. So,
Right. So
yeah.
you mentioned you and Xavier were friends for a long time, and you also kind of talked about how that first year, or yeah, that first year was like one of your best years, and you think maybe he was a resource. So How were you able to balance a relationship plus that biology degree? I feel like
Mhm.
just balancing relationship just in general is already hard, but you also have like class. You were super involved from the moment we walked on campus. So how did you do that?
I think that one aspect that helped was finding times to hang out when we were doing things we had to do. Or at least that's how I think that's what helped in the beginning, you know. And it also helped it to not seem like, oh, we're on a date, we gotta dress up, blah, 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 like all these
Mhm.
things. It was just, we gotta eat, like I have to, or not have to, but I want to go to church or like other things like that. Or um, I want to sometimes take some time to go do something fun. Why not do it with you?
Mhm.
So initially, I think that's what really helped kind of set that consistency and having that breakfast every single day because we both had no other time. And like I said, I look back and yes, it was a lot of him doing some work on my end because I had no other time. But I didn't find out until a year later that he didn't have class until 10:30 every day, but would wake up, who's not a morning person, would wake up
Wow.
to come and see me for breakfast and then wait like 3 hours. But then he actually ended up practicing because he was a piano major. So he would practice for that gap in between breakfast and class. So, it worked out. But I think now and moving on years later, we really just had to say, okay, what is your schedule like? What is my schedule like? We do consistent check-ins, and say, okay, here's the time when we're gonna hang out. Or are you going to this thing? Are you interested in that? This is gonna both help us. Let's meet up there. Or we would also say we try to do it once a week or once a month. If it was really bad, we'd say, okay, we're gonna do like a date night.
Mhm.
Not really sounds like an old person thing, but it was really just, something where we would go out and do something. And I think by that point, sophomore year, I had a car, and then he
Mhm.
got one later on. So we could go off campus and either we would eat or watch a movie or I don't know, just do something where we set that time to just hang out. Sometimes it would just be, let's just talk and not think about school, but it wasn't
Right.
always long, but we always said, okay, we're going to try to find the time. So I think that was really it. And then also just not being too frustrated if the other person was more busy than usual.
Mm.
And because we just knew that our schedules were so, so different. So we had to kind of just say, be patient with the other person. Same with like summer times, we were long distance. I think last year was probably the hardest because he was in DC, I was in California.
Oof.
And so I was doing a biology, like medical type internship. He was interning in Congress. So he had to work from 9 to 6 every day. Then he had to practice piano, take the train home. By the time he got home, it was probably 9:30. Then it had to be up again.
Yeah.
So I would wake up at 5 in the morning to talk with him for like half an hour to an hour. And then he'd immediately have to go on the train. But yet again, it was that every time, we have this uninterrupted time, no matter what else is going on, we know, okay, at least we had set apart that time to talk, catch up, do whatever
Mhm.
it needs to be, and then we move on. And if we ever had free moments, like maybe we expected to have a busy day and then it wasn't that bad, then we'd be like, you know what, let me check in, see what you're up
Mhm.
to, and just kind of find that balance and just be patient with the process because it was every year was different, which
Yeah.
like that's why when I was saying earlier about junior year, have it all together, it's like that was a whole different set of stuff now once you pass those first 2 years of college. So yeah, I think those are some things that really helped. So
I love like I hope this is a word, intentionality. No, I'll just say
yeah,
intention.
yeah.
The
Oh
intention
yeah,
with the
intentionality. Yeah.
communication. That
Hmm.
because I think that's so important and it definitely will help a relationship grow. That's just really awesome. And one thing I really love, I don't know if you told me this or Xavier told me this. I feel like it was him. But
Okay.
how like if you guys would be really busy and you couldn't connect, you guys would like send each other videos like talking about your day.
Yeah, sometimes we did. Yeah.
That is so cute. To me, like a little vlog almost. Just sit down.
Yeah.
Hey, babe, this is what I did today. I just thought that was so cute.
Thanks. Yeah. I don't know which one of us it was, but yeah, we did do that every once in a while, especially because I don't know. I just think that it's almost like, how somebody will text you like, "Hey, I know I'm gonna be busy today," type of thing. You're not gonna hear from me. We were like,
Mm-hmm.
let's do one better. Hey, I'm gonna be busy today. Here's what I got going on.
Mm-hmm.
Let me know what you got going on, or like, let me know how you're feeling about this, or something like that. So, yeah. So
That's
that
awesome.
was
And I love how
fun.
like we're highlighting like the positive, like the good sides of the relationship, but I don't want to air all your business. So like
I
speak,
got you.
yeah, but let's talk about the struggles of being in a relationship. Like how I mentioned earlier, I feel like everyone always like worships and like ships these relationships, and everybody wants to be in a relationship. That's like the big thing. Everybody wants to be in a relationship, but a lot of people don't understand relationships are not always easy. So, without telling all your business, like what are some struggles that you've experienced while being in a relationship?
I think the first one would be kind of the balancing life that we were just talking about. That's
Mm-hmm.
still a continuous struggle. I think I'm thankful that we over time have gotten it right, but it's not like this is a machine that's just running itself. Every day you
Yeah.
have to try. I think another thing is that being in a relationship, it really can bring out the worst in people.
Mm.
So whatever kind of maybe insecurities that you may have, any other traits that just aren't the most positive, those are brought out,
Mm-hmm.
and there are great things are brought out too, but definitely some of those worst things. And I think too, balancing what somebody needs and what they've expressed they need versus kind of expecting based on the relationship that you have, how to meet their needs and
Mm-hmm.
what they need to be loved, like the ways they need to be loved, things like that. I would say those are probably the top three for sure, and those kind of encompass a lot, but I think it's hard because you're really exposing yourself to that other person, and I'm not
Mm-hmm.
talking necessarily intimately, but I'm saying just all facets of yourself are in some way exposed one way or another. And especially being in a relationship as long as we are, we've been through a lot. Like this is pretty much all of college. That's a lot of change in somebody's life.
Yes.
And to feel still supported by the other person through all of those changes, or as you are figuring out some stuff you probably didn't realize you had that was so deep,
Mm-hmm.
that can be a little bit of a shock. And it can also be sometimes frustrating because you don't always get it right when somebody is saying they need something done this way or things like that. Yeah.
Okay. And we're going to talk about like being vulnerable in just a second, but I want to go back a little bit. You kind of talked about like kind of like making sure you're kind of like giving the other person what they like need. And so that kind of reminds me of love languages. So if you guys don't know,
Mm-hmm.
love languages what was created by some guy. I probably should have looked this up, but
Gary, I believe
this
it's Gary Chapman, but I could be wrong.
I think so, something
Yeah.
like that. Yes, let's call him
Yeah.
Gary. So Gary has the five love languages, and it's physical touch, words of affirmation, acts of service, acts of kindness.
Uh,
No,
Gifts
gifts
and
and quality
physical.
time.
Yeah. Hmm.
So, what is your love language?
I think that in my relationship is different than, with other people, but I would say in my
Mm-hmm.
relationship, it would probably be quality time as a big one more than anything else. Others too, but yeah, I would say that that's a big one for me.
What would you say Xavier's top love languages?
I think words of affirmation
Mm-hmm.
and I think physical touch for both of us maybe is more secondary, but I
Mm-hmm.
think everybody kind of needs like hugs, and it's almost
Yeah, or
like
simply like
giving,
greetings.
yeah, or it's just like I never realized the power sometimes of like a simple hug or a simple like somebody holding your hand or things like
Yeah.
that, how much that can impact somebody. But it's not like, I don't know, it doesn't overtake the relationship where it's like, oh, I can't deal with this, because we've had to deal with long distance, so that's why I say it's more secondary, and the primary would be for me quality time, and for him words of affirmation.
So do you ever feel like you struggle to give him words of affirmation and he struggles to give you quality time?
Oh yeah. Oh
Mhm.
yeah. I can be very blunt at times with things.
Mm.
I feel like I'm a very helpful person, or at least that's what I've been told. And I love, like, I love to, do things for others. That's why I always say that my love language for other people is like acts of service. I love
Mhm.
doing that for other people. But for him, that's not always what he needs. He needs more
Mhm.
words of affirmation. And sometimes words of affirmation, or sorry, words that aren't always affirming, even if they aren't necessarily putting somebody down, they cut harder when either I'm just being honest about things, or I'm just sharing, what about this, or like a piece of advice,
Mhm.
or, leading with that rather than leading with, I support you, I'm proud of you, those types of things. And sometimes that's all he may need in a moment more than advice. He may want the advice too, but it's really all about how it's packaged. So I think that
Yeah.
that's where I struggle, is not with what I say, but how I say it. So,
Mhm.
yeah,
Gotcha. That's
definitely would be
interesting.
that.
What were you saying?
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say, I think it would definitely be that. It's just the packaging.
I feel that. That's something I've kind of been working on, not necessarily in my relationship, but just in life, like just packaging things the way that I know the other person would like. But I was gonna say, so my love language, I think it's definitely changed, but I
Mm-hmm.
think like right now it's kind of like quality time. I think that's my top one. And then Justin's
Mm-hmm.
top one is physical touch.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because like my first love language is like his last, and then his first is like
Mm,
my probably second to last. So that's definitely been like a struggle for us, like navigating like, okay, like Justin, I need quality time, yada yada yada. He's like,
mm-hmm.
okay, Ariane, well, like I need you to be affectionate, yada yada yada, where that's not my strength. So
Yeah, yeah.
I definitely feel you what you were saying about how you guys have different love languages and how sometimes that could be a challenge.
Yeah, no, it definitely can be. And I think too that the idea of kind of, I don't know if you've heard of the book Love and Respect, but
Mm-mm.
it's a really good one too. If you like the love languages book, you definitely like the Love and Respect book. I forgot the author's name, but it may actually be the same. I don't think it's the same person, but they're both Christian authors. But all that to
Hmm.
say, I think that sometimes if I'm not sure if I'm meeting the love language, I think back to, okay, the way that the book puts it is men need to be respected, women need to be loved. And it's kind of a cycle. So
Yeah.
if you're respecting, they will show love. If you are feeling loved, you can show respect better. But it's definitely more complicated than that, in practice, but that's the explanation. So sometimes if I'm not sure, I think about, okay, does he feel respected if I'm saying things this way? Or does he feel respected if I'm, you know, doing et cetera, et cetera? And I think about that too, is that, if I'm not feeling loved in this moment, is there something maybe I did
Hmm.
to cause him to not meet that love language that I need? Or is it just, you're overthinking it and everything's fine, and that's always kind of like
That's
the
me.
back end thing of just, what, you're just being in your head and life sucks right now, that type of thing. So yeah, I think that I've used the love languages and the idea of love and respect is two key ways to kind of gauge how we're doing, and definitely doing those check-ins often on, am I meeting these expectations, or how can I do this better? You know, yeah.
Okay. And then I think that kind of brings us to our next topic. I kind of wanted to talk about like how you work through this disagreements. And when you kept like
Mm-hmm.
saying respect, I think respect is a huge part with disagreements because you're not always going to agree. If you always agree, something's wrong. Somebody's lying. But sometimes you just have to
Mm-hmm.
say, you know what? I disagree with you, but I respect your opinion. I respect your this and that, and I won't cross that line. I won't say this anymore. So, how do you and Xavier work through disagreements that you guys may have had?
Yeah, I think the first thing I'll say is that I'm so thankful that we're not the same, because it
Hmm.
makes life much more interesting to not have somebody think the same way as you do. We definitely have the
Yeah.
same values, but just, it's like, I think I always put it this way, the directions of how to get there are very different for us, but we get to the same destination, you know?
Mhm.
And so, but I think that's fine, you know, and I've learned to just be fine with that. But I know if there is something we're disagreeing about, somebody will have some type of intervention or just intervene and be kind of like pause, you know, we need to talk about this, you know, and be very honest in the discussion that we have about either how somebody's feelings have been hurt or how this has just whatever needs to be discussed, always being honest. Another thing is trying to listen, but listen without the expectation of you're ready to now speak over them, you know, truly
Mhm.
just listen and understand, okay, what has gone wrong on their end that I have done, or maybe just how did we get here, you know, because it may not be something that the other person done, it just could be an external situation that has now caused a rift, you know, just kind of listening to those perspectives. And then from there, I think the last thing would be just I don't want to call it action, but kind of action of, okay, now that we've had this discussion, we've been honest, we've talked about it. Okay, what are we going to do because of this? If it means
Mm.
I need to change what I'm doing, do that. Like, don't just say you're going to do it, you know, actually take steps to be better. If it means, you know, hey, I'm sorry I did that. I may need some reminders sometimes if I do it again. Please call me out, you know, or
Mhm.
if it means I need to go talk to somebody because of whatever that disagreement led to that action, whatever it is, you know, now don't just talk, be about it, you know,
Mhm.
be about that change to show that it's not all talk. So I would say those are the big things, but it's always comes down to honesty. Definitely, like we were saying before, not yelling, but also don't be afraid to call out when something is off.
Oh, yeah.
I think that
Mhm.
sometimes that can be the hardest step is to just say it, you know, be like,
Mhm.
whoa, this is not, you know, going right or whatever. So, yeah.
I agree with you 100%. I think I like how you had like the three-step plan. Was it listen, look at their perspective, and then make like not a call to action, but a plan of action if it happens again?
Um,
Or did I
yeah, and
combine?
then kind of the first one was like, so I guess it would be four. So the first one would be like intervention, kind of, or you
Mhm.
know, somebody has to bring up, you know, what needs to be talked about. So,
Yeah, and I think it's so important. Like, you don't want to be in this relationship where you're, I don't want to say too scared, but you don't want to like cause tension because of an
mm-hmm,
issue. I think it's important, and I think some people don't make it through disagreements with like big problems, but if it's something that's important to you, talk about
mm-hmm.
it. Don't live under a rock for the rest of your relationship, or you'll be unhappy the entire time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah. And I've actually been learning from my therapist recently about the idea of temperaments.
Hmm.
Well, I know that it's not anything new, but just more from what my needs were in the sessions we were talking about it and how people's different temperaments or tendencies towards, you know, certain types of way they move in the world can
Hmm.
affect how you deal with disagreements. So one person may be more prone to shutting down if they feel something is wrong, and the other person's super expressive and just wants to, you know, let's talk about it now. And the other
Yeah.
person's like, that's not helping me. I need a second. And so kind of figuring out, okay, is this a moment where you need a second? Is this a moment where we just need to go for it and just talk it through? Or is this a moment where we kind of need to do both and just be patient with the process? But I think that, especially because, like I said, Xavier and I are very different, we both agreed we're not going to let the thing simmer, you know, like that's not going to
Yeah.
happen. We're going to talk about it, but know that because we're different, don't get more mad all the time at the way somebody has reacted than at the situation itself, because then you're just stuck in even worse situation, you know. But yeah, I think that one thing that has helped for sure is going to therapy or starting to go to therapy, and not for our relationship, just kind of we've gone separately for ourselves. So
Hmm. And I mean, since you mentioned therapy, you're just helping me like segue through this. So a big part of like going to a therapist is actually being vulnerable. Because if you go to a therapist and you're not vulnerable, you're wasting their time and your money. So let's talk about being vulnerable in a relationship. Do you think that was something that was hard for you, especially since you hadn't been in a relationship before?
think so, for
Hmm.
sure. I know from both of our upbringings in different ways, there have been certain things that have led us to kind of put up barriers
Mm.
to um, how we express ourselves or be vulnerable, as you mentioned. I think too that for me it was challenging because of a lot of friends of mine that I had seen get hurt, or a lot of people say don't put all your eggs in one basket type of thing, or just like all those different things where I didn't want to do too much and then see myself get hurt. Or maybe I felt that, and this isn't to like put my parents down, but if what you're seeing going on at home is not always the best, you may internalize that of, I don't want that to happen to me, so
Yeah.
I'm going to guard myself, or things like that. So I would say that it has been challenging because for both of us we've had certain things that have led to us not wanting to always share. I think for me too, some reasons have been certain insecurities that I have about rejection. um and so that has been, a big thing for me. I won't necessarily speak to what Xavier's gone through because I feel like that's his place, but I will say that for me personally, yeah, rejection or just people saying they're one way and then kind of showing you another side, that has been something that happened in my life, especially when I was young, kind of in those developing ages. So when you have somebody who's in your face like, yes, I'm down for you, I'm your best friend, like blah blah blah, it's like, cool, so when are you gonna flip the switch type of thing, and it's like, no, I gotta remind you, I'm not that person. Like, I am who I say I am to you. You don't gotta worry about how those other people were treating you. So that has been something I personally have had to be on this journey about, like, figuring out how to, just stay confident. And I don't think that he's ever given me a reason to not fully think that. It's just been me being afraid, so.
I feel you 100%. And I think like I've definitely struggled with vulnerability. I think I still struggle with it now. But it's definitely been in different ways. So I think like I've always kind of been a fairly like private person. And I think that's just kind of like how like my mom raised me. It's like, okay, like XYZ, that's not anyone's business. And I think like not like throwing shade towards my mom, but I kind of wish she didn't raise me that way because I think it kind of makes it harder for me to like connect with people. And so I think like with me and Justin's relationship, I wouldn't say I was vulnerable like fast, but it was weird. Like we would be in his car talking, and then I would find myself talking about something that my friend, like I don't even talk to my friends about. So I'm like, that's kind of when I was like,
Yeah.
something about this guy is
Yeah.
good, but I don't know what it
Yeah.
is.
Yeah,
And so,
definitely.
and over time, like, you know how people say like you're like an onion. I think I'm like an onion. Like over time, you can break one layer, but then there's still a lot more. And I think I've been trying to be more and more vulnerable, especially since, I've been in my relationship for almost 4 years. It's like, okay, I really don't have a reason to hold back. But then like you were saying, it's like I don't want to give this person like everything and then we break up 6 months from now. And then I'm like, oh, like I should have kept that to myself. You know what I mean? So that's definitely a huge struggle. But I think like vulnerability is something that just, goes down over time when you can truly trust a person.
Yeah, yeah. And I'm thankful to say that I really do trust him, and I don't take that for granted because I know that there are a lot of times where, like I was saying with those insecurities, it can be something where you don't even want to share with your friends, or like your boyfriend may see another side of you that nobody else sees. Like I think it's funny how when we went on the cruise, you were like, Bria, what is going on? Like you are
Oh
not like this
yeah.
you are not like this all the time. And I just thought that was so funny because I think that I'm just so surprised at ways that I've acted with him versus other people. And it's not being fake. I just think it's sometimes certain people make the space feel safe to be one way or another, that it just kind of morphs into you're just comfortable, And I think that I'm very thankful for that. Like I can be weird if I want to be, I can be happy, I can do whatever, but that isn't something that happened overnight. And I don't think that it's just I don't think it's by accident. I'll say that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Quick thing. Bria on the cruise. I felt like a proud mom on the cruise because it was like,
Oh my
it was just
God.
so nice to see like you and Jessica like cut loose. And I'm not saying they were going crazy or anything, but like it
Mhm.
was just so nice to see like everybody like literally cut off from the world. We did not have internet for most of the
Yeah.
time and just have
Yeah.
fun. And like we all just got to know each other kind of like on a different level. I feel like I really got to know everyone, differently because like we were housemates and everything, but we never really had like sit down serious conversations. So it was nice to have that on the cruise.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
we're going to navigate a little bit. I think one part of being vulnerable is like talking about family situations. And
Oh
I'm pretty sure
yeah.
it's like this for most households. It's like, you know, within your household, you don't discuss stuff with other people. But when you're in a relationship, it's like sometimes that's the only person you can talk to about, things
Mm-hmm.
that go on in your family. So, you, me, Justin, and Xavier, we all come from completely different backgrounds, right? Justin and Xavier, this is kind of similar, but still completely different. And
Mm-hmm.
all of us are now, we're all adults, but we all have kind of like, I guess, split families, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, how would you say, and you don't have to speak for Xavier's side, but just from your point of view, how would you say that family dynamics affected your romantic relationships, or did they not affect your romantic relationship?
Oh yeah, they definitely did. I think the way that he expresses it is put well, and it's not any put down to either side of our families, but they are definitely just kind of added stress for sure. Like any family dynamics. And I think, like you said, it's because you can have these people who are quote unquote similar, but the upbringings can make a big difference more than you realize.
Yeah.
Just those tiny differences, actually can be fundamentally like, whoa, we are very different. It can be as simple as how they do the dishes, or how often do they eat together, or how they speak to each other. Like, for
Hmm.
example, my house is very loud, his house not so loud.
Uh-huh.
But or just the way that we get excited about things, and I think it's kind of like a cultural thing too. Let's say you go someplace, the way that they are expressive and excited, you'd be like, wow, these people are mad at each other. Why are they, it's like, no, that's just excitement,
Hmm.
or some people may feel more comfortable to share certain things that you may see as disrespectful. And so I
Hmm.
think that because of that, when problems do come up, you have to really be able to set those boundaries to be able to address it. Like, if the problem's on your end, you got to be the one to kind of say, like, yo, whoever family member may have said something, this was not cool,
Hmm.
like, this, we need to talk about that. Or kind of say, this is how we're going to move forward with whatever it is, whatever that difference is. If the difference can't be changed, how do we move forward? Um, but I think that it is always important to remember that, though that may be how your family has done things all along, if it is having a negative effect on the other person in such a strong way, don't negate that as them being a complainer, or
Hmm.
them just being difficult. They're coming from a genuine place, especially if it's a healthy relationship. So
Right.
yeah, that's kind of how it's been. And I would say that some things are more passive in how they affect the family dynamics. Like, it could just be things that you have internalized in your upbringing that now you do that affect the relationship, or it could be
Hmm.
active family members, who are affecting things, or maybe
Hmm.
affecting your outlook on the other person because of that person who's very close to them and that they respect and love. So yeah, it's interesting. And I think that, like I said, our relationship has definitely gone through phases, and the phase right now, because of how long we've been together, I think is where family has become more involved.
Hmm.
Because right now we're in COVID. If I'm going to see him, I'm going to see his family, because we're only so much people you can see, everybody's at home. Or
Yeah.
if there's family events, he'll be invited more often now. But all of that is now a new layer of people added. It's not just me and him at college,
Hmm.
so yeah, that would be my thoughts on family dynamics.
I think family is like such a really interesting thing to talk about. And I, okay, when I first met Justin's parents, I met Justin's mom. I met Justin's mom before we even started dating. So I don't really remember that too
Mhm.
much. But then I was really nervous when I was going to meet Justin's dad. I don't even remember where I met him. It might have been like when he picked us up from the airport one time.
Okay.
But I feel like meeting family is nerve-wracking because you're like, oh, I want them to like me, because if they don't like me, you're nervous that they're gonna like convince, your significant other, yeah, break up with that person. So were you
Mhm.
nervous the very first time you met Xavier's family?
I wasn't,
Mm.
but I think that there were a couple of reasons why. I guess first because he met my family
Hmm.
before I met his, and so we kind of had like a trial run with what that would be like. So there was just kind of a lot of things that didn't go right.
Uh-huh.
And so we kind of were like, okay, here's how to, navigate this better. And I think maybe just in the situation that I met them, it was just very chill. So I wasn't too nervous. I
Hmm.
definitely was just interested to see if they treated me differently because I was his girlfriend, or if they would just be the same. He said they were basically the same as how they always are.
Uh-huh.
So I was like, okay,
That's good.
that's good. But yeah, so I think that every time, especially the first few times I met all of them, it was pretty chill. I know at
Hmm.
first his brothers, I think it was more nervous meeting his brothers than the rest of his
Really?
family. And here's why. I think because like I'm not like them,
Hmm.
like at all. And that's not to say there's anything wrong with them at all, but we are just very different. So I just felt like he was going to get clowned, or they were going to have something to say or whatever. Like I remember there was one time we made some rice and it was just bad. And it was
Hmm.
cheap rice, so it just didn't come out right. And they were like, "Oh, your girl can't even cook. Your girl can't even cook." And I was just like, "Yo, first of all, y'all bought this like 85-cent rice. Of course, I'm not gonna be able to cook it. It's just like I know how to make rice, but they're like, dang, how's she gonna be able to cook for you? And I was just like,
Uh-uh.
this is a very tense environment. But then I realized that, you know what, that's just them joking around, and you
Hmm.
just gotta put it one ear out the other and laugh about it, but not let it, stress you out. So yeah, I think that them more than his like mom and dad. So
Okay. All
yeah.
right, let's shift gears a little bit. So, unfortunately, due to COVID, your answers to these next couple of questions are going to be, I guess, not really ideal because you can't
Mhm.
really see each other as much, yada, yada, yada. So, let's talk about like dating after college.
Mm.
So, you're in one state, he's in another state. You're not too far away, but you can't just go visit on your lunch break. So, how or has your relationship changed since graduating from college almost a year ago?
Yeah, I think that one thing that was kind of like trial run for us was having the summers always being somewhere else. I was always in California and he was always on the East
Mhm.
Coast. So it was very similar to that. We just kind of had to
Yeah.
say, okay, let's get into that mode again. If this means waking up a little earlier or going to bed a little later, whatever that looked like. Um, but I would say that first thing that we've gotten into now is using Scener. Like that's our best friend, man.
Aw.
Like we're probably gonna go on that after I get off this. Because I didn't know that he really liked watching TV until
Mhm.
recently. And we don't watch it all the time, but it's just it's a way to connect.
Yeah.
We have a couple shows that we'll watch together, and then we have certain movies. If a new movie comes out, we'll watch it together. But the shows are kind of that more consistent thing that is always that filler. We can always do that, and then we'll FaceTime and catch up or something. But I would say Scener for sure has been the
Mhm.
best. It's just worked out really well. It's been a lot of fun. It's free. I mean, as free as it can get as long as you have the subscriptions and stuff. Cool.
Can you tell the listeners what Scener is, just in case they've never heard of it?
Yes, I'm so sorry for not explaining that. So Scener is like Netflix Party, but I think, better because it has that aspect of being a Google Chrome extension where you can watch the movie at the same time, but then you're on video chat at the same time, and you have the regular chat, going if you want to type in stuff. So you can sync your accounts and watch pretty much any subscription site you want to watch together. And so I think that is, oh, he just texted me right now. Are you ready to watch us?
Tell him no,
Yeah,
leave us alone.
exactly. But yeah, so I think I just love it because it's like you're doing something together, even though it's as simple as watching a movie, or we'll laugh about crazy things, or if it's something serious, have a dialogue about it later, or whatever it is, But yeah, there's that. But when it comes to just other things now, being outside of college, being in COVID, all of that, sometimes we will just have to make sacrifices with our time. So, if somebody's having a really rough time, maybe had a really rough week and you have some time to drive to wherever they are, we make the time, or if we can talk, like sometimes if he's more free in the mornings, because my schedule is kind of all over the place right now. So yeah, if he's more free in the mornings, then we'll talk then, and then we'll say, okay, I'll see you at the end of the day. And then we'll talk then, But I think that if we had kind of gone with the flow the way COVID is, of like, oh, I'm always just kind of in this, space of just so much going on, bored type of thing. And we didn't have our own lives for those hours in between, like talking in the morning, talking in the evening, like doing something productive or something outside of what the other person is doing. I think that it's nice. Like, I don't feel like we got to be on the phone like 10 hours a day, because that's how it used to be. Like when we first started dating, we're on the phone all the time, but that's not sustainable now, being college graduates.
It's not even that much to talk about anymore.
That too. Exactly. So we're totally fine with the evening times, and then sometimes we'll do midday check-ins as well. They sound super formal. It was really just saying what's up and laughing about something.
Time for midday check-in. How are you?
Yeah. Yeah, or like maybe we'll eat lunch together. I don't know, just something simple. And then whenever we can, we'll like plan out, okay, when can I come see you? When are you gonna come see me? Different things like that. Whether it's a birthday or other stuff, because all that has happened during quarantine. Right. And yeah, from there we just try to continue those same principles that we were talking about earlier in the podcast episode about, respecting the love languages, all those different things, remembering that those don't go away, even though you've been in this forever. Like, we can't go through the motions and expect things to be great, because they can just easily we can just really drift apart because we're not together. There's nothing really holding us together because we don't have school, we're not in the same place, like all that. So, but yeah, we just continue to have fun, continue to just figure out how to make it work. And the 3-4 hour drives, they haven't got too bad anymore.
Right.
Like, yeah, they're really not. Get a couple podcasts on and you're straight. So, and I think our families, the last thing I'll say on that is our families have helped a lot. I cannot emphasize that enough. If his family is not cool with me, my family is not cool with him, we wouldn't have a room to stay in, because somehow both our families have guest rooms. That is a privilege I do not take for granted, but that's been so helpful, just to be able to have that space and everything. So yeah, I think that has been a blessing, of having both of our parents feel comfortable with each other. So yeah.
Nice. So I've said this like 12 times, but you guys have been together for 3 years, going on 4 years in a couple months. And, now that you're outside of college, I'm sure this question is coming at you. So Bria, have you ever talked about getting married? Bria, when you getting married? When's the wedding? Like,
oh yeah.
Do you feel pressured to get married since you've been in like this long-term relationship?
I don't, because I think that I still see it as almost 4 years, but it's not 4 years as an adult. It's just, it's different.
Yeah.
So I'm not expecting myself to be ready right now for any of that. And I know my parents, they told me, well, definitely my mom, she's like, we were too young, and they got married right after college, like the day after they graduated. So when I hear that, I'm like, there is no pressure. If they're saying and they're 25 years in, nah, you don't got to rush, I'm fine. But I do think that it's something I think about because I don't know, we just enjoy each other's company. So it's almost like eventually we'll get to that point, but we kind of have thrown out the window what that timeline will be. But well, we do definitely think about what do we want those beginning stages to look like where do we want to be as adults when we make that decision, like even down to are we going to elope or not, like just stuff like that. Like what are your expectations about how you want to begin your adulthood, because I'm still around. And I know one thing we've talked about is definitely not the idea of taking a break. I know that that's what some people decide to do, or just kind of say you have to test the waters with other people or to figure out, your careers. But we started in an unconventional way. Like we started dating in the middle of summer. Well, I'm more trusting in God that if we've been able to make it this far in an unconventional way, we'll be okay. So I'm not going on anybody's timeline, not even my own anymore, So yeah,
so
definitely.
You want to
but
go
I hear it a lot.
I'm sure you do. It gets kind of annoying because it's like, guys, I am 22. Leave me alone.
Yes, exactly. But anyways, continue. I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, so you're planning on going into medicine, which is you're signing away for at minimum 8 years to like really perfecting your craft before you really like hit the ground running, right? Or you have like an 8-year commitment, I'll say that. While Xavier, on the other hand, he wants to go into like political science, law. So that's a 3 to 4 year commitment, right?
Yeah, 3, yeah.
So have you guys talked about, I guess, like your futures and how they're gonna work together? Like, have you guys had that discussion?
Yeah, we definitely have. And I think that one thing that has even changed it further is I decided to take a gap year. So now it's 9 years. Okay. Initially he was not taking gap year. So now we're back to square one again because he took a gap year too. But all that to say, we're just going to be older, and who knows, I may get an MPH. That may add another year. All these different things, we have talked about. But I think one thing has been true is that because he is going to be done before me, if he's financially stable, that will be a big, not the only factor, but that will definitely be a big factor in determining if we're ready. If all the other things in terms of, compatibility, values, like whatever else, maturity, like all that is figured out, if it's just career that's holding us back, if he's fine, then we're gonna be fine, because I'm eventually gonna be fine. It's just gonna take a minute, but it will really help if he's got, his stuff together on his end. But I think too, because my track is so long, there will never be a right time for me. And so we've kind of just said, there are some times that are better than others. So that would be ideal, like after second year, that would be the earliest. After 4th year, sometime just in residency, whenever, and that's kind of where the eloping part came into, where, and I'm not telling my family if they listen to this are about to elope, but because of the way our schedules will be so different and our career paths are so different, there's not going to be a right time to get married. It's just going to kind of be when it fits. And that's not going to fit for everybody. And that's fine, because we're already chilling. We're good. We're going to figure it out. But I do know that it is going to be a little challenging, and I'm not sure how life is going to look yet once we both really get into school. But I do know that we are both we value, spending time with our family. So I know that if we value that, we're able to figure that out. I know that we're going to, if we need to, if we have a break, take a flight over, drive a couple hours, depending on how far it is, those little things are going to continue to happen. And we're just going to make it work. I think that's where we're at. Like, we're committed to it. If it's a hard process, we're going to tough it out. If it's easier than we thought, cool too. But we're not going to give up on it just because it's gonna take a little bit of thinking outside the box, you know,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm thankful for, because a lot of people be like, I'm not waiting for you for 10 years or
Yeah.
12 or whatever. Like, I don't have time for that. So I'm really happy that he made that clear that, you know, whatever you decide to do, you're fine. You know, I'm not
Mm-hmm.
gonna give up on you because you're making me wait for stuff. So
Right.
yeah, so I'm
Oh,
happy
I
for
love that.
that.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, before we get into like the last part of the questions, I want to ask you this. This popped in my head while you're giving your answer. What would you say is your favorite thing? Okay, two things. What's your favorite thing about Xavier? And then what's your favorite thing about your relationship?
Okay. Um, my favorite thing about Xavier is probably how just chill he can be. But I
Mm-hmm.
think sometimes that can be a little much because you don't want somebody too chill. But I'll
Right.
say this, like he just, you know, just be saying funny stuff to me. I think it's funny.
He's
Or
hilarious.
just, you know, or just like it's always a positive time. Like it's never drama. It's never like I'm gonna be toxic today. I always know if we get on the phone, it's gonna be good vibes. Or if I'm with him in
Mm-hmm.
person, it's gonna be good vibes. And that's just how he is with anybody, you know. And I think that that's really beautiful. And I think too how much he tries to listen to what other people's needs are or to make them feel comfortable in certain spaces. And it may be with jokes that are really corny, but he's trying, you know? And I
Yeah.
think that that's always so nice. Like he'll always try to just make other people feel appreciated and welcomed in whatever space.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, probably just the conversations that we have would be my favorite thing because he's a very thoughtful thinker
Mm-hmm.
about things. He may not say it as fast, you know, it may take him a minute to get to it or other things, but whenever he says stuff, it's just like, wow, like I was not thinking that, you know? Like, wow, okay. I feel like I'm just always learning something new or just always hearing a different perspective. And so
Mm-hmm.
it's just great, you know? Like you don't want to be speaking into an echo chamber.
Yeah.
And I definitely don't feel like that at all. And I think too that we do things for each other because we like to, not because we feel like we have to. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that's so fun. Like we match all the time and people always make fun of us for it. Like it's a mess how many things we have that are matching. But we don't do it because we're like, oh, we're gonna look cute on Instagram. Like, I don't know, we just like it. You like this, I like this. Okay, we get it. You know, or if we wanna post something, we do it because we want to, because we like it, you know,
Mm-hmm.
not because
Yeah.
we feel like somebody has to tell us. And I think that that's just, I always know there's never some type of ulterior motive. It's just genuine, you
Mm-hmm.
know, and I think that that is probably the biggest thing I love the most about all of it. So.
I love that so much. And I just want to give you like some positive vibes and some
Oh,
affirmation. I literally love you and Xavier together so much. I remember when it was right before who was I think you were going somewhere, maybe to California freshman year, and you guys weren't together yet. And Xavier was just saying, yeah, I really like her, yada yada yada. And now you guys
oh,
are almost 4 years in. I just love seeing you guys together. I definitely think that you guys are definitely opposites, but you guys like work. And I mean, I'm
mm-hmm.
on the outside and I can see that. So I'm sure it's like even better like in the relationship. So I will continue to cheer you guys on from the sidelines. I can't wait until I'm at the wedding and I'll be like, I told you guys this was gonna happen.
Yeah.
So before we close the podcast, I want to ask you for some advice. One, I want to ask you for some advice for just young 20 somethings who are graduated and grown and trying to figure out life. And then two, for those young 20 somethings who are trying to figure out life, but specifically trying to like navigate like relationships, just something like relationship focus. What advice do you
Okay. I'll do the relationship one first just to kind of like close the door on that. I think that being in a relationship, especially a healthy one, is kind of like the gift that keeps on giving, you know?
have? Mm-hmm.
It's your best friend. It's somebody that you're growing with. It's somebody who you're learning how to be a better leader with, you know, learning how to be a better listener, a better just in so many ways Like I think that that's when you'll know that you're in a good spot. And if somebody is not providing that for you, you don't have to settle, or you don't, or you trust your gut if it's not giving that to you, because of him, like I don't think would have been Miss Oakwood. Like I don't think I would have gotten certain opportunities, because you learn just so much about yourself. You
Yeah.
learn just how to work with other people through it all, so I say if it's causing you to level up, like that's where you want to be. So don't rush, like don't take that and be like, okay, I'm gonna rush into a relationship now because it's gonna help me level up.
Right.
But it really does. Like it does. You look around, you're like, wow, would I have been here without this person? You know what? That is awesome. I'm so happy because, I couldn't have asked for that. I didn't get into it for that. It was just kind of like icing on the cake. So yeah, look for that. And it'll make things better if that is an aspect of your relationship, that it's, the gift that keeps on giving. With other things, just, being a 20-something-year-old, I think my biggest advice would be to invest in yourself in a lot of different areas. So I know this is kind of capitalist, but if you need to purchase things, don't be afraid to purchase a couple of nice things that will really help you out.
Yeah.
And that you will use often, because it is worth it. I know a lot of us don't have as much money because we're still, new at whatever we're doing. Maybe we're still in school, whatever it may be. And you're just like, I'm a broke college student. Why do I need to buy this? Or for example, I'm not an influencer. Why do I need a ring light? Or why do I need silk pillowcases? Do it. Go in, like, not a lot of things, but every once in a while just be like, you know what, I'm going to get that for myself. Because the silk pillowcases have helped my skin. I've gone to White House Black Market for a couple of staple things, though it may be expensive. I go on the sale and it has paid off, because now those things are going to last me for a long time, and I can wear it with a bunch of stuff. The ring light, like I said, I'm not a social media person like that, but it has helped me on these virtual interviews that I've had to do for medical school or for my teaching. I wasn't trying to I was waiting forever to spend money on something like that. But I use it almost every day. You know what I'm
They're
saying?
great.
And I know that it steps up my presenting of myself. So I know that when you put your best foot forward, though it may mean having to spend a little extra here and there, it will now lead you to make more later on,
That's true.
and make a good impression. So yeah, that would be my second thing, is invest in yourself in some ways. It's kind of like treating yourself, but it's also gonna pay off later on. Don't be afraid to buy that more expensive thing and then be frugal other ways. Like I equally go to the thrift store as much as I go to, I don't know, whatever the most expensive place is. So yeah, those would be my 2 pieces of advice.
And just to cap that off, I definitely agree. I am like a huge advocate for like invest in yourself, treat yourself, especially because like I think adulting has like this bad rep, like it's so hard. All you're gonna do is like lose money and be tired all the time. It doesn't have to be like that. Sometimes it will be like that, but take that time. Like I guess it's also linked to like self-care. If you're someone like that likes to get your nails done, I mean, I'm not going during COVID, but if you want to, like, go do that if that makes you feel good. Go do a bath bomb. Go, I don't know, get the silk pillowcases, get candles are very nice, and you can get like
Oh
some good like
yes.
inexpensive candles that just make you feel good. So definitely invest in
Yeah.
yourself, because adulting is hard and you deserve it. And then for relationship advice, I would say don't feel pressured to be in a relationship. I remember, I think it was Michael Todd, and he was just talking about how like your single period is a blessing, and there's like so much you
Oh
can get
yeah.
done while you're still single. So like enjoy that time when like all you have to worry about is yourself. um and even like us, like I feel like we're single according to like the Bible, because they don't really talk about dating, but like, we're able to do things that we won't be able to do when we're married. Like maybe you can go spend $10,000 on a trip right now, but when you're married, it's probably not the best thing to do, because it's probably his money too. So just be
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
focused on having a relationship, like get to know people, have friends, and eventually what's meant for you will come to you.
Mm-hmm. Definitely, definitely. I think that's great advice. And I'm so thankful for the time that we had to talk today.
Yes, this was good, Bria. Thank you so much for being on the Graduated and Grown podcast. I think you definitely dropped some really good gems, and it was just really nice hearing about like your relationship from your perspective. And if listeners want to like follow you or connect with you on your journey, how should they go about doing that?
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Bri underscore Imani underscore G. That's BRI underscore IMANI underscore G. I'll probably change it eventually so it's easier. But until then, yeah, just look up that or Bria G, either one. Hit me up. My DMs are somewhat open if you have questions about the medical journey
Not
or
about her
just
relationship, not about her as a human.
yeah, about me as a human. If you have questions, I guess based on the podcast, but not the normal hit my DMs type of thing.
Right.
So yeah, we don't
Oh,
need
well, this
that.
is right. Xavier will be on the podcast. Like, what did you do? But
Mhm.
all right, Bria, I'm going to let you go ahead and get on your senior date. Again, this was really, really great. I appreciate it. And again, if you guys want to connect with Bria, I'll have her information in the notes for this episode. And we'll talk to you guys later.
All right, bye.
Well, that's the end of the episode with Bria Gamble. I really hope you all enjoyed our conversation, and hopefully you learned something new that you can apply for both your platonic and romantic relationships. I tried to make it interesting for those, of you guys that are currently in relationships, but also for those of you that are waiting for the love of your life to come along, or those of you that are just happy in your singleness and you just like hearing about relationships. And I just want to remind you all that there's absolutely nothing wrong with being in a long-term relationship and not being married. And there's nothing wrong with being a single 20 something. Like, live your best life, focus on yourself, treat yourself. I'm going to say that again, TREAT, treat yourself. And if you're interested in reading the book that Bria mentioned, it's called Love and Respect: The Love She Desires, the Respect He Desperately Needs by Dr. Greg, I don't really know how to say his last name, Egerich's. Egerix. I don't know. I'll have it in the episode description. But also be sure to head over to the Instagram at Graduated and Grown and let me know what you guys think about this week's episode. Interact with the different posts that I make, and let me know if there's any other aspects of relationships that you would like to be featured on the episode. All right, y'all. Peace, love, joy, and I'll see y'all next week. Bye. Thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Graduated and Grown podcast. I appreciate you so, so much. If you haven't already, be sure to rate this podcast 5 stars and subscribe to the podcast so you can get a notification every single time a new episode is posted each week. Also, don't forget to follow our Instagram at Graduated and Grown so you can learn a little bit more about our guests, about our topics, get some resources, and provide some feedback and or episode ideas for the podcast. All right, y'all, it was your host, Ariane, and I'll talk with you all next week.